Assalamu alaikum students. In the previous lecture we had discussed about we had started off with a new topic which is called life processes, and we had discussed that a life process is every function that a living thing has to perform to stay alive and to reproduce. We had discussed that there are 7 life processes: movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion and nutrition. We had discussed about movement in detail in the previous lecture, and in today's lecture we are going to talk about respiration. So what comes to your mind when I say the word respiration? Breathing, right? Wrong. Respiration is not just breathing. Respiration is the chemical process that supplies the body with the energy for all other life processes. Okay, so it supplies the body with energy to perform other different processes. So it's not only breathing. So that breathing, it is breathing, but it doesn't mean that it is only breathing. It basically provides energy to the body. For example, to grow, and to repair cells in our body, or to contract muscle contraction, or sending signals to the brain, or and many other things. So all the processes that go inside the human body, this respiration plays a very important, very vital role in it. So respiration is just not breathing, that you just breathe in oxygen and just breathe out carbon dioxide. That is there, but this is not the only job of respiration. It basically provides energy to the body to do different tasks. So that's why whenever you doctors, or whenever dietitians, they say when you exercise deep, take deep breaths, take in oxygen, so that your body gets energy.
Absorbing molecules in active transport, to name just a few. It happens in all living cells, not just animal cells, but also plant cells. There are 2 types of respiration.
So there are 2 types of respirations: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Okay, there are 2 types of respirations: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Okay, and aerobic means that it needs oxygen, and anaerobic means that it does not need oxygen. Okay, when we talk about aerobic respiration, that means that it uses oxygen, but when we talk about anaerobic respiration, that means that it doesn't need oxygen. So aerobic respiration, it releases energy in the cells which are present inside the human body. Our human body has a lot of cells, so it releases energy in the cells by breaking down food substances. So basically the simple definition of aerobic respiration is that it's a biological process in which food glucose, when we eat food, that the glucose in the food, which is converted into energy, which is then used to do different tasks by our body, okay, in the presence of oxygen. So now let's read from here. Respiration is the chemical reaction. Chemical reaction basically means that anything, when any substance when it is goes through a process and it is converted into another substance, that is basically chemical reaction. So in which all the living things perform in order to get the energy they need to live. So there are different chemical reactions that go inside our body. So respiration is also one life processes. To stay alive, to live alive, we need to respire, we need to take oxygen, and then that oxygen is converted into energy in our body and to do various tasks. Aerobic respiration is the chemical reaction that uses oxygen and release energy from glucose. So the food that we eat, and we get glucose from it, and and the chemical reaction that uses oxygen, and it releases energy from that glucose. Respiration is often confused with breathing because oxygen is only part of chemical process of breathing. So respiration not only means just breathing, but there's a whole chemical reaction to it. When a human being breathes means when you take in oxygen, when you inhale glucose, a sugar acquired from food. So the food we eat, there's a sugar, there's a glucose, there's a sugar which we get from different foods, reacts with oxygen and produces energy. So it's a chemical reaction. Basically two things are basically two things are reacting together, means that glucose plus oxygen is equals to energy. So this is a chemical reaction, means the two things combined together form a third thing. So glucose along with oxygen is equals to energy which is used by body. So this is called respiration. This energy is used for growth, repair and movement. So it is this energy is then used by different purposes inside a human body. So when a human body breathes out, exhales, water and carbon dioxide are produced. These two substances need to be excreted. So when we breathe out, when we inhale, we take in oxygen, we make energy. But when we breathe out, then carbon dioxide and water are produced, which means that these things are not when you go to washroom you pee. So that means that is a byproduct. That means that you need to excrete these things, you need to take these things out of your body. So we inhale oxygen and we produce carbon dioxide and water, so which are the result of the chemical reaction between glucose and oxygen. Okay, so when glucose and oxygen they are combined together, then they produce energy, and they also release something which is carbon dioxide and water. And because these things are important to be released, fish and young amphibians breathe through gills. So we have talked about different groups of animals, I think, in the previous lecture. So amphibians, like fish and other young amphibians, they have gills inside their, the gills inside in their body, these scales and in gills. Gills are flat string like organs that help fish and amphibian to absorb the oxygen that is dissolved in water. So because fish they live in water, so they don't breathe with their mouth, but they have, Allah Almighty has placed gills in them, so they breathe with their gills. So they are flat string like organs, and they absorb oxygen and that is dissolved into water. Then earthworms. Earthworms breathe through their skin, which needs to stay moist so that the oxygen may pass through it. So, how do earthworms breathe? They breathe with their skin. The skin that is, and if you notice and if you look at an earthworm, it is always wet. So why is it wet? Because it needs to stay. In order to stay alive, it needs to respire. It needs to take in oxygen, and that sticky, that watery, moist skin, it takes in oxygen for it, and that is how earthworm lives. Reptiles, birds, adult amphibians, humans, and other mammals breathe in oxygen through their lungs. So the different animals are made different way. They breathe differently. Just like fish and other amphibians have gills, and earthworms breathe through their skins. Reptiles like lizards and other reptiles, birds and adult amphibians and human beings and mammals, just like animals like cow, buffalo, giraffe, and all these animals like dog, cat, they have lungs inside the body, so they breathe through their lungs. So how do we these animals and mammals and they breathe through their lungs. Blood cells that circulate through small blood vessels near the lung pick up and carry the oxygen around the other part of the body. So lungs are the organ that carry oxygen throughout our body. It is our lungs. When we inhale oxygen, it goes through our lungs and they just swell up. So um, and because our bodies have different blood vessels in our there, we have veins, we have blood vessels, we have other things in our body which carry blood. So our heart, it pumps blood throughout our body. So it is a continuous system. So blood cells that are present inside the body, they circulate through blood vessels, and near the one near the lungs pick up and carry the oxygen. So basically when the blood is circulated inside the human body, the inside the blood there is oxygen also. So those oxygen is also carried through the human body. So when we blood, it moves inside the human body, it has oxygen in it. Okay, so plants also respire. Plants also take in carbon dioxide, but they exhale oxygen. So they don't take in oxygen. Plant cells go through the process of respiration just as animal cells do. Plants and animals cells will die if respiration were to stop. So the cells inside our body, if respiration stops, human being will also die, plants will also die, and animals will also die. Remember, respiration is not the same as breathing. So it's not only about breathing. You take in oxygen, but there's a chemical reaction that goes inside the human body, that goes inside plant, that goes inside the animals as well. Plants do not breathe as animals or humans do, because they do not have lungs or bloodstream. So because and there's a proper system, Allah Almighty has created things differently. So plants, they breathe differently than human beings and human beings and animals. Animals have skins, animals have gills, animals have lungs which are properly made for this function, to breathe and take in oxygen and do this life process. Then the blood carries oxygen throughout the human body. But plants, if you see the look at the plant, there is no lungs, or there are no organs inside the body. So their process of respiration is different. All parts of plants respire. That the parts that are above the ground get oxygen from the air through pores. So plants have small holes, like their pores, these small tiny pores through which they take in, through which they get oxygen. Okay. um, so the stomata are pores in the leaves, while lenticles are pores found in the branches. So if you look at closely at the plant and trees, you will find small pores. So those pores in leaves are called um, stomata. Single, if it's a single pore, then we are going to call it stoma. But if there are multiples of them, then we call it stomata. So stomata are small pores on the leaves, and lenticels are the pores that are found in the branches. The branches have small pores which are called lenticels. So they breathe in, they respire through these pores, these small holes which are very tiny, which cannot be seen with naked eyes. So how do plants breathe, how do plants respire? Every part of the plant respires. So the parts that are above the ground get oxygen from the air through, they breathe, they respire through the air, through the pores that are present inside the plants. So these pores are called stomata in leaves and lenticels in branches. Okay. Now in this photo, the leaf of Slivia miniata plant has been magnified 200 times to see the stomata. So these are stomata, these are small pores. If you see, look if closely in this picture, this is some plant which is called Slivia miniata, and it has it because it's so small, it has been magnified. Mean it is actually very small, but with the help of microscope and with the help of all this is magnified. Means it is shown bigger, 200 times bigger than actually what it is. So it has small pores like this. These pores, as you can see in this picture, these are called stomata. So this plant, it respires through these pores. Okay, students. So now we had discussed about respiration, which is the second life process, which means that, which means that taking in oxygen, and then that oxygen, there's a chemical reaction that goes inside every living organism, like plant, animals, and human beings, and different living beings, they respire differently. Plants, they respire through their pores. Animals and humans, some of the animals and some of the humans, they not all the humans and some animals, they respire through their lungs. And some animals, they respire through their gills. And some animals, they respire through their skin. And so plants, they respire differently. So this is another life process. In order to stay alive, this life process is goes on. And Respiration is basically the chemical reaction. Okay, this is basically the chemical reaction, which means that aerobic respiration, there's an aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, aerobic respiration and aerobic respiration. It basically is the chemical reaction that uses oxygen and releases energy from glucose, which we get from food. So, and byproducts in humans are water and carbon dioxide. Okay. So this is what respiration is. In order to stay alive, this is a very important life process. I hope that you have understood. In the next chapter we are going to discuss about the third life process, which is called sensitivity. Till then you have to revise this at home, and if you're not able to understand anything, please let me know. I'll make sure that I'll explain it in much detail.